"This meeting is for heirs only," the lawyer said, not even looking up from his papers. "You are not included. Please leave." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock, like it was counting down the last seconds of the version of me they all preferred, the silent one. "My name is Jenna, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been erased from your own bloodline like you were just a shadow, present, but never belonging?" I stood there, heels planted, spine straight, face calm. All around me, my family sat in their tailored suits and fake grief, pretending they hadn't spent years making sure I stayed on the outside. My stepmother clutched her pearl necklace like it was choking her. My half-sister wouldn't meet my eyes. And the lawyer, he looked bored, like this was just another Tuesday. I could feel the way they looked through me, like I was the afterthought, the inconvenience. Too independent, too outspoken, too much like my father, the version they couldn't control. I smiled softly. Then I stepped forward, opened my leather case, and placed a stack of official documents on the gleaming mahogany table. One by one. Deed, title, transfer agreement, power of attorney. All in my name. All signed long before they knew Dad was dying. "You mean the ones I already own?" I said, tapping the top paper gently. The air changed. The lawyer's jaw twitched. He picked up the top deed, eyes scanning the signature. My father's handwriting. In blue ink. Dated. Witnessed. Legally airtight. My stepmother gasped. "What is this? This has to be fake." "No," I said, meeting her eyes. "It's truth. You just never asked the right questions. Or maybe you did and didn't like the answers." I turned to the lawyer. "I'm not here to be included. I'm here to close the loop." He cleared his throat. "As the legal owner of the properties, Miss Jenna Green has." My sister shot up. "Dad would never. He promised me the lake house." "You're lying." But the lawyer kept reading. "Full rights to all properties listed under Green Holdings prior to his passing. The revised will confirms this." The chair beneath her wobbled as she dropped back into it. In that moment, the truth landed harder than any slap I could have delivered. They had come for their inheritance. But I had already claimed my identity. And the fortune they thought they were owed? It vanished right in front of them. The day after the inheritance meeting, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Calls from unknown numbers. Blocked ones. Even a few texts dripping in faux concern. "We were just shocked, Jenna. Can we talk? You should have told us about those documents earlier." Dad wouldn't have wanted this drama. Drama? No. What they didn't want was discovery, that behind their performative grief, I had been quietly stitching together the truth they tried to bury. You see, my father didn't always get things right. But near the end, he did. He saw the way they treated me. The snide remarks at family dinners. The way I was conveniently forgotten from vacation invites. The birthday card signed without love, or skipped altogether. They never said it out loud, but they didn't have to. I wasn't hers. And in my stepmother's world, that meant I wasn't really family. But what they didn't know was that Dad kept two wills. The first one, the one the lawyer originally referenced, was drafted 5 years ago, back when he still believed things could be fair. But the second one? That was done 3 months before his death, in secret, in a hospital room, with his hand trembling and eyes wet. I was the only one he trusted to hold the pen when the lawyer arrived. Because I was the one who showed up. Every week. Every doctor's meeting. Every long night where he couldn't breathe and whispered, "I should have protected you better." I didn't ask for anything, but he gave it to me anyway, because he knew what they were planning. They were waiting, not grieving, waiting to collect, waiting to wipe my name off the table with the same dismissive wave they'd always used. So he gave me the lake house, the one they used as their Instagram backdrop but never maintained. He gave me the investment properties, the ones I'd helped manage in college while they were off spending his money. He gave me the business office where I used to sit as a teenager and label file folders just to feel close to him. He didn't give me the family I wanted. He gave me the justice I needed. And now they were trying to rewrite the story. But it was too late. Because this time, I wasn't standing outside the door knocking. I held the keys. By the end of that week, their desperation had turned theatrical. My half-sister, Carly, showed up at my door in tears, mascara smeared like she thought pain could be painted on. Jenna, please, you know how much I loved that lake house. Dad said it would be mine one day. You don't even use it. I stared at her, the same sister who once laughed when my birthday cake had no name on it, who posted photos from family brunches that I was never invited to, who told her friends, she's just Dad's charity project. Now she was calling it ours? I didn't raise my voice, didn't curse her out. I just stepped aside, let her see the wall behind me. On it was a photo, the last one Dad and I took together. He was wearing that ugly flannel shirt he loved, smiling like the world didn't owe him an apology. Framed right below, it was the deed. Carly followed my gaze. Her expression collapsed. You planned this, she whispered. No, I said quietly. You just never noticed I was here. She left without another word. Later that night, I got an email from my stepmother's attorney, a veiled threat dressed as negotiation. My client is willing to avoid contesting the will if a fair portion of the properties are redistributed. Redistributed? Like it was mine to share, not earned. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer and added one sentence. Let them file. We'll respond with the signed trust and my care logs. Because what none of them realized was that while they were posing for photos at the yacht club, I was collecting everything that mattered. Every receipt, every hospital log, every message Dad left asking me to bring soup or socks or simply sit with him in the silence. They wanted the wealth, but I carried the weight. And now that the scales had tipped in my favor, they couldn't stomach the justice. That weekend, the story broke in the local press. Headline: Family dispute emerges after daughter named sole inheritor of Green Estate. They hated the word daughter more than the article itself, because it reminded them that no matter how much they tried to rewrite the cast, I was always in the story, and this time I was writing the ending. 3 days after the article dropped, I drove up to the lake house alone. No entourage, no press, just me, Dad's old keychain, and a bottle of red wine he used to keep for good days only. I parked beneath the giant oak tree, the one he refused to let anyone cut down. He used to say, "It's rooted too deep, like you." The porch creaked just like I remembered. The chipped paint, the wind chimes still tangled from last year's storm. And when I stepped inside, it hit me all at once. The smell of cedar, old books, and a faint trace of his cologne still baked into the couch cushions. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but no tears came. Only the quiet, the kind that wraps around you like memory, not mourning. I walked through every room, touched every photo they once said I didn't belong in. Because I wasn't real family. Because I wasn't her daughter. But I was his. And in this house, that mattered. I opened the bedroom drawer and found the envelope exactly where I left it, the one Dad had told me about in the hospital. When the time comes, he'd said, they're going to come for the house. Let them. Then hand them this. Inside it, a copy of the emergency will. Signed. Dated. With photos attached of him and me in this very house over decades. There was also a handwritten note. This is where you became my daughter in every way that counted. No paper, no court, no second wife can ever change that. This house is yours. They already had enough. That letter was my shield. Because while they thought they could challenge me in court, they didn't know about the emotional evidence, the lived-in proof, the care logs, the receipts, the nurse statements that backed up every hour I sat by his side while they went shopping for black dresses and counted inheritance in advance. I spent that weekend fixing the porch railing, replanting the herb garden Dad let die when he got too sick, refilling the bird feeders because I knew he'd like that. And while I worked, they called, not to reconcile, to bargain. Jenna, if you keep the business building, can we at least use the lake house in summers? Can we sell it and split the money? Dad would want us to share. But Dad didn't write their names on the deed. He wrote mine. Because in the end, when it came time to choose who would carry his legacy, he didn't choose the ones who used his name. He chose the one who never needed to. The next front they attacked was the company. Dad's old construction firm, Green and Daughters. A name they all laughed at when he first changed it. Carly once joked, "He really thinks Jenna's gonna swing a hammer in heels?" But I did more than that. I rebuilt our books when we were in debt. Negotiated contracts when Carly was off in Miami finding herself. Managed the team when Dad was too sick to get out of bed. And when the clients called, they didn't ask for Jacob. They asked for me. Still, after Dad's passing, Carly showed up with a cheap smile and a pile of copied documents, waving them at the staff like a false queen flashing play money. "I'm taking over. It's what Dad wanted." Jenna's too emotional to lead anything. She didn't know I'd already met with the board. She didn't know Dad had transferred his shares into a blind trust, my trust, 6 months before he passed. And she definitely didn't know I had signed the payroll that paid her rent for the last 2 years. When she walked into the office that day, expecting a throne, she found me at his desk. I didn't look up right away. Let her sweat. "Why are you here, Carly?" Her laugh was tight. "It's a family business, isn't it?" "Right," I said. "And I'm the last one standing with the family's name on every legal line." She scoffed. "That's not fair. I deserve something. We deserve something." I finally looked at her. "No," I said. "You expected something, but you didn't show up for it. Not when it mattered." I pulled out the copy of the trust agreement and slid it across the table. Dad's signature stared up at her like a final judgment. "This is real," she whispered. "Very." She didn't storm out. That would have required dignity. She just stood there, silent, as everything she thought was guaranteed became something she'd have to earn. But I knew she wouldn't. She'd never had to before. The employees watched it unfold from behind glass walls. Some nodded. One even smiled, because they remembered the days when she walked past them like they were invisible, while I stayed late, taking out the trash. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A message from one of our biggest contractors. "Heard Carly tried to pull a fast one. Good thing you're in charge. Let's schedule next year's bid." And in that moment, I realized they didn't lose a building. They lost credibility, because while they tried to steal the spotlight, I had already built the foundation. After the dust settled at the firm, the next wave came in whispers. Calls from family friends. Distant cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to check in. One even messaged, "I heard you're handling things now. Proud of you, but maybe ease up? It's tearing the family apart." Tearing the family apart? They tore it when they told me I wasn't an heir. They tore it when they planned to divide what they thought was my father's leftovers, never suspecting I'd be the one holding the ledger, the title, the trust. But the loudest silence of all? My stepmother. Not a word. Not a call. Not a letter. Not even a half-hearted attempt at reconciliation. Until I received an envelope. No return address. Inside was a copy of Dad's obituary, the one she had printed in the paper, the day after the will reading. Beneath his name, she had listed only her children. I wasn't mentioned once. Not as daughter. Not as caregiver. Not even as a person who existed. That's how far they were willing to go, to rewrite history so cleanly, they thought I'd simply vanish from memory if they scrubbed hard enough. I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it, set it on fire over the kitchen sink, and watched the ash drift upward like all the stories they tried to steal from me. Because I had something stronger than their words. Proof. Photos. Letters. Bank transfers. Hospital footage. And more than anything, a legal record that bore my name in ink. You can pretend someone didn't matter. But the law doesn't pretend. And neither does the legacy they thought they could white out. That weekend, I stood in front of a group of staff at the firm. Most of them had worked under my father. All of them had watched me grow up in the break room, on job sites, at the copier. I told them this. Some people inherit fortune. Some inherit fight. I got both. And we're going to rebuild this place, not in my father's shadow, but in his honor. And in truth. They clapped. Some even cried. Because what we were reclaiming wasn't just a business. It was dignity. And that's something they never imagined I'd find. Because they thought I'd stay quiet. But I wasn't built for silence. I was built for storms. The final blow didn't come from me. It came from the state. You see, While they were busy trying to claw back properties and paint me as the bitter, ungrateful daughter, they forgot one very important detail. Dad's estate hadn't just included real estate and a business. It included taxes. And they'd spent years signing off on expenses they shouldn't have. Luxury cars disguised as fleet vehicles. Personal spa weekends filed under client relations. Even Carly's trip to Milan, written off as a materials sourcing conference. Only one person had flagged those expenses. Me. And when they pushed me out, they didn't just lose the paperwork. They lost the cover. The state audit landed like thunder. It started with a polite letter. Then it became a subpoena. And then it became news. Green Estate faces financial investigation following disputed will. I stayed quiet. Let the investigators do what they do best. But privately, I handed them every folder I'd kept locked in my cabinet. Every spreadsheet. Every signed check. Every time-stamped email. They didn't need to dig deep. Within a week, my stepmother's assets were frozen. Her luxury condo, the one she claimed Dad promised her, placed under review. Carly cried online about being betrayed by the system. Jacob left the country. Or, at least, that's what I heard. I didn't smile. But inside, I felt the ground steady beneath my feet. Because when you're gaslit your entire life, told you're dramatic, ungrateful, too intense, truth feels like justice on fire. The firm stayed intact. Green and Daughters officially rebranded under my leadership. We expanded to 2 new cities. Hired women from underrepresented communities. Launched a scholarship fund in my father's name. One that required no bloodline to access, only dedication. At the fund's launch dinner, one of our oldest vendors stood to speak. He said, "I remembered Jenna sweeping this warehouse when she was 10. They used to say she was just visiting." Funny how the visitor became the one who kept the lights on. The room erupted in applause. But me? I just nodded. Because I knew from the marrow in my bones to the title on the land that I didn't need a seat at their table anymore. I owned the house the table was in. 6 months later, I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for our new regional office, a sleek, glass-wrapped building with my father's name etched in steel near the entrance. Green Standard Foundation, built with honor, led by truth. I didn't invite Carly, or my stepmother, or any of the people who once told me to sit down, be quiet, stay out of men's affairs. This wasn't for them. It was for the interns who'd never been allowed at the table. For the daughters who were told, let your brother handle it. For the ones who gave everything and were rewarded with silence. A reporter approached me just before I cut the ribbon. "Jenna, after everything your family put you through, don't you feel vindicated now?" I looked at her and then up at the building behind me. "No," I said. "I feel free. Vindication is when they admit they were wrong. Freedom is when you no longer need them to." That night, as the event wrapped up, I slipped away and drove to the lake house. The porch light still flickered the way it always did. Inside, Dad's old books still sat on the shelf, untouched. I lit the fireplace, poured myself a glass of that same red wine, and read his final letter one more time. "If they ever try to push you out, remember this. I didn't raise a placeholder. I raised a pillar, and pillars don't beg to be included. They hold everything up." I sat in his old armchair, the one they all fought to throw out when redecorating, and looked around the home they once called an old burden. It was mine now, all of it, and, more importantly, so was the peace. The firm was thriving. The lawsuits were over. The silence from them? Still strong, but now it didn't sting. Because their inheritance didn't disappear. It transformed. Into a business with a woman's name on the deed. Into scholarships with my father's handwriting in the logo. Into a legacy they'll have to explain to their children when they ask why their last name doesn't open doors anymore. That's the thing about erasing someone. Sometimes, all it does is give them space to rewrite the entire story. And this one, I wrote in permanent ink.